Good morning and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own money whisperer, Judy. How are you, Judy?
I'm fine. I'm doing fantastic. What a great day. It's Southern California. All over the country, it's blizzarding, white out, icy roads, craziness. And I'm looking outside and the birds are chirping and it's sunny and it's gorgeous. So I am
Yeah, and
feeling good.
that's awesome because I can see that background where you're at. It just looks amazing, right? It almost looks
Large
like a painting.
shot. Isn't that
Yeah,
great? It's so pretty
that's
today.
fantastic. So, folks, thank you for joining us this morning. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judykopenbarger.today. Everything that's relevant is on her website. We also want to take a moment and kind of talk a little bit about. We're going to do some reviewing. We're going to be focusing on smart financial moves to kick off 2024, but this is part two. So if you didn't tune in for the previous episode, make sure that you do so to catch up. We're going to continue today, but what do you say we get started with kind of reviewing a little bit about the last show on when we talked about budgeting?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Budgeting is a big deal. A lot of folks say, I can figure out investing and that kind of, work my way through that. I can figure out saving and work my way through that. But how do I do the monthly stuff? Especially if there's an uneven source of income. Maybe you get bonuses or maybe like realtors, you get commission. All of a sudden there's a big pop and then there's nothing for a while and then a big pop. How do you even that out? And a spending plan, which is what I like to call a budget. A budget sounds like the B word. It's
Mhm.
what you can't have, what you can't spend, like a diet, the D word. But a spending plan is a really great place to start. And the easy way to do that is just set up the foundation with your fixed expenses, your flexible expenses, and then some other things that we'll discuss in a moment. But you know what that means, right? So your fixed expenses, they don't change. That's going to be what you pay for housing, what you pay for your utilities or your cell phone bill. It's all those things that are just, you know what they are, the insurance premium. It doesn't really change, maybe once in a while, but doesn't change a whole lot. So those are the things that are fixed. Flexible, those are things like groceries, entertainment, going out to eat, maybe travel, those other things. It could even be like your gasoline, if you put gas in your car these days. It could be that where one week it's really high, one week it's not. So that might be flexible. So getting all those in order, and then there's these other things.
So let's discuss a little bit about. I've heard you mention before when we're talking about the B word, right? We talk about looking at reviewing our our B word, our budgets, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why should we be reviewing them? Why should we be? And I've heard you mention before adjusting budgets. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, stability. It's just confidence and stability. So if you've ever had that feeling, and I don't know very many people who haven't, even if it was years ago, that feeling where you've run out of money before you run out a month. And it's like, where am I going to get it? You're cleaning out the car to find the change. You're looking under the couch cushions and you're short and you're looking through the pantry. What can I make with what I have here? That's not a good feeling. And maybe there's a bill coming up. What am I going to borrow it from? Do I not pay housing? Do I not pay utilities? What am I okay being late on? Late usually means late charges. And then you're
Right.
kind of scrambling. And then, okay, well, we can go to the credit card, but now that's going to add to your monthly expenses because now you have more debt. So we don't like being in that feeling. So I think what a spending plan does is it gives you the confidence to be proactive rather than reactive to those
Right.
things that happen financially. So every time money comes in, how it's going to be allocated and how it's going to be expensed.
So one of the things also you pretty much mentioned it right now too. It's just to always be proactive, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us get started with thinking, hey, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that. But, here it is, end of the month, and whatever your planning is, it just fails because you didn't really plan accordingly.
I'm here again.
Yeah,
Again. Did it
again.
again. Yeah.
And so that actually leads me to my next question is what's a good way or what are some tips that you can give us to really focus and plan ahead?
Yeah. Well, I think the best thing is preparation. And it's hard because when you start, you don't have that cushion. And so whatever you can do to build up that cushion, that cash reserves that you need, that savings that you need. So when those things happen, because they will, Life is going to happen. You're going to have the garbage disposal go out. You're going to have a flat tire right when you don't expect it. At the worst time, they say those things happen in full moon and they happen in threes, all of that stuff. It feels like it, when you're in it, it's like, what's next financially? What next will happen? So to be prepared for when that does happen, because it will. And that's just having a really robust cash reserves or savings. So you don't have to reach for a credit card when those things do happen. And that should be part of your expense plan, right? As you're putting together your spending plan, there should be one line item for cash reserves or savings, where even if it's 1%, 2%, something every month as a discipline goes into that cash reserves. Then you can pull from that. That's DNT though. Do not touch. That's a DNT account where only it's as if you spent it. But when you do really need it, you can go there before you have to go to a credit card or tip family for help.
So I'm gonna do a sub question to that too, because you're bringing up credit cards, and I think a lot of us, even when we start young, right, they give us a first credit card. There's a lot of responsibility that goes with the credit card. Even as adults, that's always our go-to. So over the course of your career, talk to us a little bit about what are some of the good and the bad related to credit cards. When
Well,
should we really use them or not?
absolutely. I think you need to have them. Nowadays, there's very little you can do without one. I know some people that don't use them. They'll use a debit card maybe, but to be able to travel, to be able to rent an apartment, to be able to rent a car, to be able to order things online, there's a lot of things that you need a credit card for just to navigate the financial world out here. It's possible to do it without, but I think it would be very limiting to not have a credit card. But with that being said, you want to use it as credit, not as debt. So it's not like a bank that you go to and we'll just pay it off one day when the money shows up in the future. You want to pay it off every month if you can. If you're young and you don't have credit established, your credit score is going to be really important when you go to buy a car or lease a car, when you go to rent an apartment. You're going to need to have a credit score, which means you have to have a credit history, which means you have to have credit accounts. So it's kind of like, this whole cycle. Not only is it convenient, but it can really help you get good rates on things you're going to want to do in the future if you're young and starting out or rebooting. So I think you need to have credit cards, but you need to use them wisely. Pay them off every month if you can. If it takes 2 months, that's okay. I would have different advice, and I've got other episodes that talk exactly about how to establish credit. I'm going to negate in those episodes what I'm telling you right now, because to establish credit, you actually have to accrue it for a little while. But there's a smart way to do that, and we've got all the technology for you of how to do that. If you're raising a young adult that is establishing credit, or if you're re-establishing credit yourself, there are some really great ways to get your credit score up fast. And so we analyze that for you and help you navigate that there. But yeah, everybody should have a credit card. Use it wisely. Part of your spending plan, because we're talking about the B word today, part of your spending plan should be getting that debt down and out the door. Get it down, zeroed out. And so that should be one of those line items every month if you do have some consumer credit that's kind of hanging in there, or a car loan or a student loan, right? Those are going to become line items every month.
Yeah. I've also heard that when we're talking about credit cards, you mentioned also debit cards, right? So one of the
Mhm.
things I've heard because of the crazy world that we live in, I've always heard that you should never use your debit card when you're out and about for gas and different things because it's always just tied in directly into your bank account. It's always a good idea to have that separately as a dedicated credit card for your everyday groceries or whatever and just pay that off. Have you heard that also?
Oh, I know that to be true. Yeah, so many experiences, personal and, among clients. Yeah, so many experiences there. So, and it's important to watch. You have some kind of a credit lock, service that watches that. You should be watching your statements. Young people just kind of go to the wall. They've grown up with technology where it's all just like automated. We grew up, balancing our checkbook, so we checked, our money. I think everybody should at least once a month look, glance at everything, make sure there are things there that are yours and none that aren't. That happens. And debit cards are an easy way for people to, swipe the information. They can take it without even touching you now or touching the card. And they get that information. And then if they can get into your bank account and it's a serious bank account, not good. So if you're going to use a debit card, maybe have one debit card that is only for that, where you keep a limited balance in there just for that purpose, that convenience purpose. But credit card might even be better that way. Another thing about credit cards is many of them will back you up if you do get hacked or if you do have some fraud. They will immediately put the money back in your account while they deal with the fraud. So that's a nice service too. So all of your credit availability is not tied up if something bad happens. They kind of take that burden off of you. So lots of things to think about, with when you're choosing a credit card or a debit card, and setting up those accounts. Another thing to consider, by the way, is how much you actually take out on credit. So if you have 10 cards and you have like $50,000 available to you, that's going to affect your credit score, because the ratio between what you have out there and what you actually have used is going to positively or possibly negatively impact your score. There's so much available. What if you went out and you bought a Ferrari? It's like, oh no,
Right.
that would be bad. So credit people are watching that stuff. So you want to make sure your debt to credit ratio is, in a really good alignment as well.
Yeah, and also it leads me to my next question, because you talked about checkbooks, you talked about balancing, make sure we have all of our money. So let's talk a little bit about tracking spending. And I know with credit cards, it's a little bit easy to do that, but
Mhm.
what are some good ways to track our spending?
Well, just looking at your expenses every month. Some people like to use spreadsheets. There are so many good apps now, and there are some apps that even they have this little dial, red and green, and you say, okay, every month I'm going to spend $800 on groceries, and so it'll tell you you've spent 200, you have 600 left. You spent 400, you have 400 left, and you're getting down to the last few months or the last few weeks in the month, and it'll tell you, okay, you've only got $27 left or whatever it is. Those are kind of cool. So people that like technology like to look at that. It's kind of like, if you gamify it, it's so much easier. And I tell everybody, if you have a struggle with anything financial or any part of life, gamify it. Make it fun. Make it a challenge, and then go win the game. That's all you got to do, right? And then you just start a new
Yeah.
game. So gamifying it is great. So they have apps. They have some people like spreadsheets. One of our daughters made this amazing spreadsheet where every month all their expenses are there. All of the buckets that they're saving for are there. They've got their baby bucket and their car bucket, and they're going to buy a new house bucket. And every month, automatically, the money goes right into those accounts. It's brilliant. And so it's just kind of like set it and forget it, and it's going to happen. So there's lots of ways to do it. It's just find what works for you, whether it's more technology or less, and do it. It might just be a matter of every first or second of the month looking at your statement from last month and just checking through it and seeing what did I actually spend on groceries and going out and clothing or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's funny. This is not to be meant, humor, but when you said, you're down to 27 bucks, I'm thinking, all right, people, it's time to hit that dollar menu at some of the restaurants or whatever to make it
Taco
last, right?
Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So,
Absolutely.
so I want to talk to you a little bit about, because we have a few minutes still. We definitely talked about revisiting your finances regularly. I want you to expand on that, and I also want to see if you can talk about where do financial advisors come in this picture when we're planning our smart financial moves.
That's a great question. For some people, it's just accountability. They know what to do. It's kind of like we know to eat right and exercise.
Yeah.
But why do we go to a gym? Why do we get a trainer? Because we want the accountability, right? We need a class because we need the accountability, a coach or whatever. So for some people, financially, it's just a struggle. It's hard. I didn't have it modeled well. I don't really have a lot of confidence in that area. I want the accountability. For others, they just really need the technology. And usually from the investment side, people don't have the base of knowledge to know what investments are good. Same thing for insurance, same thing for estate planning, like legal documents. And the problem for some people can be you go to an expert, somebody who is trained in that, who knows it, who has access to the products and services that you need. And there's a conflict of interest, right? And this, you really see this in the insurance industry. So the people that you talk to that know about the insurance products, whether it's for your house or your car, or life insurance, health insurance, whatever it is, business insurance, The ones that know are the ones on the other side of a transaction. So there's this built-in potential conflict of interest where on the other side of the transaction, they're going to be paid based on what your premium is. They would like the premium to be high. And you're on this side going, I want the premium to be low, right? Because that's my cash. That's my cash flow. And so there's this kind of built-in conflict. So I think for people to go to an advisor that has some kind of a conflict-free way to do that, whether it's a CFP, that's a certified financial planner, they're trained in all areas of finance. You can go to a fiduciary. AIF is one of the most common, where you actually have to have an education, not just, a license to sell stuff. That's an accredited investment fiduciary. And fiduciary means they have to do right by you. They have to put your interest first legally. And there are all kinds of ways that is tried and true. There are audits. Why did you give that client that advice? Why did you recommend that investment portfolio? And you have to prove why that was better than all the others you looked at. So for people that need that kind of confidence that they're not, in that conflict zone, they might want to hire a professional or at least consult with a professional. And those would be two of the credentials I would look for out there. But there are good ones and bad ones and all kinds, just like policemen, teachers, anybody, contractors. There's good, bad, and ugly in every industry. Attorneys, right? You kind of get the story about the attorneys, but there are good ones. And so I think it's worth the time and energy to vet well. And we have all kinds of, how do you do that? How do you find the right fit for your team? How do you build your bench? Look up that stuff. If you're looking to build a team or to add a professional, I think, there's just a really smart way to do that. And there's a lot of ways to make mistakes doing that. So be careful out there. If I answered your question, it was accountability and technology that you need, or technical experience that you need, would make you maybe have a need or a desire to reach out to a professional.
All right. And we are towards the end of our show. And folks, you know what that means. All right, it's our Money Truth Challenge, and I'd love to hear what you have regarding our smart financial moves for 2024.
Smart financial moves. Here's your challenge. So for us to spend time together and make it really feel like it was worth it, I want you to come away with something that really moves the dial at your house. And so my challenge for you this week is by Sunday at 5:00, you do something. And the two things that I think would be really wise for you to consider is, one, what would be the low-hanging fruit, the most important thing that I can do when it comes to my spending plan? Do I need to do something about my, paying myself first? Do I need to add myself to those line items? Do I need to get control of debt? Do I need to just get organized and find out where my money's going? Because I really have no clue. Do I need to tighten my belt a little bit to make sure I can get through the month with enough money? What is it you can do to improve your spending plan? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what can you do to improve your team if you need to? Is it time to upgrade your enrolled agent to a CPA? Is it time to get your will and trust done, get your estate plan in order, your legacy done? Is it time to incorporate your business? Is it time to upgrade your insurance or drop some insurance that really is not serving you well? Maybe life insurance that's hanging around that's not great. That would be the second thing. So first thing, get your spending plan under control. Second thing, get your team built. That's your challenge for this week.
Awesome, folks. And again, if you're not following Judy or you're just joining us, follow her at judykopenbarger.today. Watch the beginning of the episode, please. This is the smart financial moves to kick off 2024 the right way. This is part 2. Make sure you also watch part 1 so it'll all come in and make sense for you as well, too. Any last party words, Judy?
Make it a great week. Enjoy the sunshine if you have some.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, guys, until next time, remember, we are here Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. with the replay on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Until next week, see you guys later. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.